me find my.
Which also talks to us about the difference between a high tower, a high tunnel, and a greenhouse.
Okay, yes. I meant to differentiate that earlier. So, a high tunnel is usually not heated, and a greenhouse is usually heated and kept green, basically, is kind of how I think of it. Like you're keeping your plants growing in the active growing stage. High tunnel, you're just kind of protecting them, not necessarily heating it and things like that.
What class is this? Oh, sorry, wrong class.
Okay, so this is the class we're going to talk about growing flowers for florists. I feel like we've talked about this quite a bit already, but there's a few things that I can kind of point out, and we can just finish with whatever other questions you may have. Because I know I kind of fielded a few things. Okay, so I did want to say they gave me this title of growing flowers for florists. And to me, I kind of took it and went more of like marketing your flowers for florists, because we have talked for 3 hours now about growing flowers. So this is a little bit more on marketing and getting your flowers sold. So the first thing that I want to talk about is social media. I actually listened to a podcast on the way down here, and they were talking about, do you have to have social media to sell flowers? And no, you definitely don't have to, but your business is going to grow exponentially faster if you can share. Flowers are such a visual, people are drawn to them visually. I mean, smell sometimes as well, but so it's a visual product, and a lot of times they are used for events and things like that. So it's an easy, free way to make connections and connect with florists and connect with other farmers even. It's also a really good way to keep up with trends. So you follow your florist, you can kind of see what colors are popular. Color is actually coming back. For the last couple years that I've grown, white will always be classic. You always have to grow white for sure. But like for the longest time, it's been peach and like a blush. And not that those things are not popular still, by far that's still the most that I sell. But there's definitely more brighter pinks. Like last year, one of them did an event that was solid hot pink. Which is a lot more fun, to be honest. And yellow has actually become a lot more popular. So to me, social media is pretty important. Picking a name and going with it, taking it seriously. Like if you're truly wanting to sell to florists, we'll talk about it a little bit more. But having a quality, consistent product is important, and they can see that by your social media and what you're sharing. I'll be honest, I don't do a ton of social media anymore, but when I first started, I was on there posting all the time. Like what I was planting, what colors, pictures of things. And in the spring, I do post like story pictures, but I don't know the last time I made an actual post. So I think social media is important. The other thing, I talked about Instagram. Facebook is important for a different market. If you're doing market bouquets, Facebook is is going to reach a much more local market, much more local customer base. So I have Facebook and Instagram, I just have them connected. So if I share on Instagram, it goes to Facebook. But if I do end up with like extra flowers and I'm like, I'm gonna put these in bouquets and sell them at the feed store, I only put it on Facebook. And I'll share it to like my local groups, because that is another thing about Facebook. You can share to local pages. So that's just, it's important to assess your market and what you're wanting to do. The other thing I wanted to talk about with assessing your market is looking for your florists. I mentioned earlier that I actually never reached out to any of the florists. I just started a social media page, and some of them, it's very important that they use local flowers. So I put this picture. You're probably thinking like, why? This is not me by any means, but her name is Jenny, and she's actually one of my very good friends now. But she was the first florist to reach out to me. She, like, if she could, she would only use local flowers, but she does events. It's not daily, so it's a little bit different. Their business is called Anthusai, and it's two ladies, but Jenny does all the ordering and everything. So we got to be really good friends, and honestly, she really helped me kind of see, like, this is what we can use. These are the colors we want, because she'll just send me, like, what they call them mood boards, and it's kind of like the colors that they're using for the wedding, the style for each bouquet, and I'll text her back and be like, this is what I have that goes with your mood board or whatever. So you have to kind of look at your area. Will you be able to sell to event florists like that? Are you close enough to a larger city that you can sell to an event florist? If you're in the DFW area, you could really go crazy. And a lot of them actually on their website will even talk about using like local flowers, but there's a certain style that I would say is more supportive of local flowers. So I did some screenshots just to kind of show you. These are just from their Instagram. These are the main florists that I sell to. So like this is Anthusai, this is Jenny. It's a different style than what you're gonna get for like a funeral, or if someone orders you flowers for your birthday from like a daily florist. It's not roses. It is roses a lot of times, but they're more garden style roses. It's very airy, and like there's space between the flowers. It's a lot more natural garden style. So when I'm telling people have asked me, like, I can't find anyone really looking at the event florists in your area and looking at their style. Like, do they use flowers that you could grow? Some of them only use like really exotic things. Do they? But like this is, her name is Haley Kinney. She does huge events in the Oklahoma City, Edmond area, and sometimes she'll have a wedding that's solid white and all they want is white roses, and obviously I can't serve her in that event. But other events, her bride will be like, I just want color, I want beautiful flowers, I don't care at all. And that's when she's the one that will bring her van and just tell me, I will take anything you have, basically. And she'll come and load up. And all of the other thing I was going to say, the reason that I screenshot these specific arrangements, these arrangements are ones that they made completely from flowers from my farm.
Wow.
The only one, this one has these roses in it, and I didn't grow those, but I've given up on roses, except for myself. But like the ranunculus, daffodils, tulips even, and this was when Anthusai started their original Mother's Day. They only use local flowers. So she came out and we just kind of like picked a bucket and she made some arrangements out of it. But I just wanted to point out that you have to look for a specific style of florist to sell to. It's not going to be like your small town daily. You can still sell to them, but you're going to grow different flowers and you're not going to just take them buckets and buckets.
It depends on the florist too.
Yes.
We've got that. I have some that are pretty artistic, but they're a daily florist.
Yes.
But they talk their customers up to.
Yes, some
what
of
they
them
wanna
will do
sell.
events, like Daily Florist will do events, but usually you can see that on their website or their social media, like they've done an event that has a style that would use ranunculus and things like that. Ranunculus are definitely more of a wedding event flower. They don't use them in daily work because they're kind of expensive, so some of them do. Like Anthusai has a shop and they do arrangements exactly like they use for events. So, but I just wanted to really kind of point out the style that you're looking for is more of a garden type style. Okay, let's see. And assessing, is it within a range that you're willing to drive to? That was my other thing. And I know that that's hard for some people, but having a large enough town that you can have these big events and stuff. And I don't want to talk bad on selling to daily florists at all, because I do enjoy that. And my daily florists a lot of times in the spring still get a bucket of flowers, but when you can sell like a whole van that's like thousands of dollars worth of flowers in one day, that's kind of what I focus on now. So, okay, and once you kind of pick your market, are you going to sell market bouquets? Are you going to try to sell to event florists? Are you going to do both? Whatever you choose to do, that's kind of going to determine what flowers you grow. Okay, so another thing I wanted to talk about when you're selling to florists is honing in and being able to produce a consistent quality product is important. They like variety and things like that, but they want to be able to rely on that you're going to bring them a bucket of really beautiful flowers. It's not going to be like snapdragons, that are like this tall, and then some that are this tall, and some of them are okay with variety like that, but it's important to me to grow a product and bring them a product that I'm proud of, and that they appreciate that. And now that I've done it long enough, like I said, I kind of have a list this is what I grow. I don't grow a ton of different things. They know what I grow, and so it's really easy to communicate with them my availability as well. But like these are the little flower girl zinnias from Florette. She made the seeds and everything. They've bred different zinnia colors, and no one else in my area grows them, but the florists that I sell to love them. They will not buy the big Benares Giants ones. They want pastel, and in the summer they will buy some of the more like hot pink and stuff like that, but I have not grown like a red flower in a very long time. So it is fun to grow all those unique things. I've tried all the different things, but just kind of picking your big ones and having quality and quantity is a big thing. Quantity can be important as well. Okay, so the other important thing when you are selling to florists is processing your flowers. A lot of the flowers they get from wholesale hubs and stuff are not actually processed. They don't have leaves stripped off of them. They're kind of a mess, to be honest. But to set yourself aside, processing the flowers, conditioning them appropriately is important. So these are the bell flowers. So these, like we talked about earlier, they all bloom at one time. So I just cut them all. I load them up in my gator. They go straight to my big processing table. I strip all the leaves off of the lower half, basically, usually. And then they get bunched into a bundle of 10 stems. Almost everything I sell is 10 stem bunches. And I meant to bring a rubber band. Does anybody have a hair tie? I was gonna show you how to do the rubber band thing. Maybe I have one in here. Okay, so this is a trick I wanted, and I thought I had brought a rubber band. When you do bunches, they're all stems. All your stems need to be the same length at the bottom. You trim them off. To rubber band them, you don't just and then twist like this. To save your hands and everything, you put the rubber band over one stem, you wrap it around all of the stems, and then you would slip it back through the stem. So it holds it all together, and it's so much faster and easier. So that was just a quick little, when you're processing a lot of flowers, thousands a day, it's so much easier, and they're just gonna cut them off anyway. So they all get processed, they go straight into water, and into the cooler. Spring flowers, it's pretty important to keep them cool. They want to be in the cooler. They're going to last a lot longer, especially if you need to have a few days till you're going to sell them, things like that. So processing and making it look like a consistent product is important, and they love it, because when I deliver buckets of flowers, they will have staff. When I first started selling, I showed up with I think it was 20 buckets of flowers for this event, and they had 4 girls ready there to process it. They'd never bought flowers from me before, but they're already all processed. I've stripped the leaves. They'll trim the ends and put them in the cooler. So that's the difference on how you get flowers. And it's important to set yourself aside, I think. Okay, so we talked a little bit about quantity and quality. As you start scaling up, it's important to have large quantities, smaller amounts of things, but large quantities. So like we talked about, I do thousands of Snapdragons, because I found that's something I can do well. It's something they can always use, even if they are a daily florist. They love local Snapdragons. They're so different than what you buy from a wholesaler, even like Trader Joe's or something like that. A lot of them are these really big, bulky, and then the tip is floppy. And I had one florist, I gave her my availability. She was new, and I was like, I have Snapdragons in all these colors. And she was like, oh, I do not use Snapdragons. Well, then the next day she came out to get her flowers, and I had them all in a bucket. And I have a cooler in my flower room that has glass doors. That's just, I keep for when people come out. And she was like, what are those? And I was like, those are Snapdragons. And she was like, I need them. And I said, I tried to tell you. So it's important to differentiate yourself. And so many, I could tell so many of those stories. It's just so different than what they get. Even ranunculus, a lot of them, it's a 10-stem bunch when they get those, but they'll lose 2 or 3. And usually you may lose the top off of a couple of in your bucket, but they're just so much better. They also have to wire all ranunculus that they get from a wholesaler. They physically stick a thin little wire up the whole stem, and they don't usually have to do that with local, because they have always been in water, so they don't get any kind of hydration issue. Okay, so customer service. Getting to know your florist. I made some notes, so I want to make sure I forget. Like I said, Jenny is one of my really good friends now. I sell them tons of flowers. She has helped me so much. But I'm not saying that's necessarily going to be everyone's case, but getting to know them, building a relationship with them, so that they trust you to bring them quality products, and that you're not gonna all of a sudden not have their flowers for some giant event or something. Just getting to know them, I think it just helps. Communication is so much easier when you're friendly, and one of those kind of pertaining to that, I do deliver most of my flowers. I drive a big extended expedition because of flowers now. I used to drive a truck. So we put all the seats down and we just fill it with buckets. I have found these white buckets from Uline are the best. You can get free buckets from Trader Joe's. You can get free buckets from a lot of supermarkets. They'll just give them to you because they're going to throw them away. I hardly ever use them because they're so flimsy and they'll topple over in your car. There are systems that you can purchase to put on the floor mat of your car or something like that. It has pipes that will hold buckets, but I have never had one of these white buckets topple over. These are the 3.5 gallon, I believe. It's either 3 or 3.5. I'd have to look that up. I don't really ever use 5 gallon unless it's sunflower season, when I was growing a lot of sunflowers, because or those really tall foxglove. It's something that maybe is really tall and needs some more support. But for the most part, these are the perfect size. They don't get top heavy. So yeah, I deliver them. I'll sit and chat with them. I'll talk to them about like what events they have coming up. I'll even talk to them about what events they're starting to schedule out for like fall. If there's something I could grow for the fall, or like in the fall, I kind of be like, hey, keep me posted how your spring's looking, and they'll text me like, hey, we just booked this white event, you know, and so like I am growing tulips in my heated greenhouse in crates. So last week one of my florists texted me, she's like, I have a white wedding in the end of February, so I pulled 2 crates of white tulips in. So just having that relationship with them, building that customer service, and getting to know them is important. Okay, so this is kind of you can't see this very well. The next part I kind of wanted to talk to, this kind of segues from customer service, is letting them know your availability. I've done this tons of different ways. At this point, like I said, I have this relationship with them, and I hardly even send out an availability anymore. They just kind of text me what they know I have, and I'll let them know if I'm gonna have it. But it's important to schedule deliveries and be consistent. And this is the hardest thing, is learning to predict your availability. It's hard. It's a learning curve. And the other kind of thing I wanted to point out is making sure you have clear photos. In light, good lighting, not in the dark, shows the color, sometimes even shows like stem length. That also kind of goes back to social media, like sharing what you're growing and sharing good photos of those things. One of the things I started doing, I think this will be the 3rd year I've done it, is creating this I call it my seasonal availability list, and I can share this with you separately where it's clear. But I went through and I made a list of all the flowers that I grow, and I need to shorten it down some. So like this is the crop, this is the colors that I would have. So I always have pink, salmon, or peach, white, blush, ranunculus. Then I would put the price here, how many stems is in a bunch, which is almost always 10 except for peonies. And then this is the months of the year, and I just kind of colored in when I would have them. And the first time I sent that out to my florist, it was February, and within a week, one of them sent me what she wanted for every week for the next 3 months, like for all of her events, what she would take if I had it. And she's like, there's no pressure, but if you have this, this is what I want. And it was not just like, oh, I'll take 2 bunches of this. It was like hundreds of stems, and it gave me a little bit of anxiety because I was like, oh my goodness, this is really happening. But I have found that to be very helpful for them. They print it off and they put it at their desk area. Some of them are like partners with different people, but almost all of them use it. The only one that doesn't use it is Jenny, and she, maybe because she just does not have the personality. She's so last minute, flighty. She's real. I love her to death, but she's very artistic. She's extremely talented, but she's one that I'm always like, thinkers. My mom works in Tulsa because she'll text me the night before. and I'm pretty flexible with. I know some people are like not last minute, but to be honest, I'm a little bit last minute. So I'm pretty flexible with that stuff because I want to sell the flowers, and a lot of times in the spring, it's okay because I cut everything. I don't cut per order. I just cut everything and then I fill orders from the cooler because I know it's gonna sell and I don't want it to be out in the heat. I'd rather it be in the cooler. So I keep everything cut. So if she texts me the night before, I'll just go out and get it, and my mom will take it in the morning. But this seasonal availability has really been helpful for them because they can see like, yeah, she doesn't have sunflowers in the spring, you know. And it just kind of gives them an idea. They're not texting me, hey, do you have roses? Or hey, do you have dahlias in April or something? So I have found that to be really helpful, especially since it has like pricing and This is kind of an old one, so don't, that's why I didn't, put it super clear, because the pricing's probably not super accurate, but, yeah, it just helps them to budget as well, and sometimes what they'll do is, one of my florists, she will just say, Haley, she'll say, I have this event, it's pink, you have a budget of $1,000, just give me whatever, I've budgeted in $1,000 for local flowers. So that's also kind of fun too, which, yes, $1,000, I know it's ridiculous. She has huge events though, sometimes okay, so clear photos is important. These are some photos that I send out every week, even to the ladies that buy the same flowers every week. They cannot seem to just look back at their phones. Like I said, for the most part, I don't send out an email. They just kind of we text back and forth because I don't have a ton of them. But like this is, I don't know how clear they are here. There's a major glare for me, but in this one you can see that I have white and blue delphinium, and the color on your phone or on a good computer or not out in the sunlight is very clear. It shows you exactly what it is. These are my early Chantilly snapdragons. Each one of these is a different color. I know it's not obvious here, but in the spring I label it as these are what they call bronze. I don't know why they call it bronze, but it's kind of a pinkish orange. This is a peach, a yellow, bright pink, and a light pink blush. And so I'll label it on the photo and they can tell me I want 10 bunches of this. And then this one, these are the Chantilly and these are a double. So I don't know if you can see it, but this is a lot fluffier. And so I can say I have the single white snapdragons or the doubles. And so in a lot of my photos, I'm comparing them to each other so that it gives them something to compare with. Okay, so pricing. This is probably what everybody wants to know. I think the best thing to do is get a wholesale account for yourself. You can get a wholesale account through Mayesh online. Hollex is one that we have in Tulsa, Oklahoma City, but it's also online. Any of those, go to your local wholesaler in the DFW area, in wherever you're from, and set up an account and just ask them for a price list. That's really the only way to figure out how to price things. The flip side to that is you need to do the math and make sure that you are profiting. So yeah, some wholesale flowers are super cheap and it's not worth for us to grow. So try to compete with things like that. Like carnations, they can buy them fairly cheap. We as flower farmers can now get the plants to grow the same carnations, but those plants are so expensive. If you can't grow them year round like they do down in South America, you're not going to profit from, and it's just too easy for them to get from the wholesaler. So assessing those different things, we talked about the snapdragons, and they can be profitable. Dahlias, we didn't really talk, I kind of got on the hardy annual kick and forgot about all the other stuff, but dahlias can be profitable if you can grow them in your area well. They can be really challenging. I put Trader Joe's on here. I do not suggest using Trader Joe's to figure out your pricing. They price things so cheap. I don't know how they can sell flowers and make money. From what I've heard, they have a farm that they work with and they actually use flowers as a marketing thing to get people in the door, and then they're gonna buy other things because they're there, and that's where they profit. So flowers are kind of cutting their losses sort of thing. So, you can go to Trader Joe's and get peonies in the spring for $1 a stem. There's no way that you should be selling your peonies for $1 a stem. I mean, you can sell basic peonies for $4 or $5 a stem. So that's a crop to really look into as well. I think I have a little note on that later. Oh yeah, okay. So this is just kind of a list that I recommend growing if you are interested in selling to florists. these are the main ones that I grow and have found to be profitable and useful for them. There's probably others, but this is what works well in my area. This doesn't really, I didn't include any like perennial type things except peonies, because that's like, if you're gonna start a flower farm, you should start getting some peonies established. But ranunculus, I put on there the butterfly and the standard. Butterfly ranunculus are my top seller by far of everything. Once you get them established, a lot of times they will kind of perennialize, and like I said, you have to pay a breeder's fee and stuff like that, but that's what they want, because when they get butterfly ranunculus from the wholesaler, I wish I had a picture of them, but see how these are like so pink and pretty? The same color, technically, from the wholesaler. They're not really open, they're really floppy, and they're kind of a greenish pink. So they will pay top dollar for your butterfly ranunculus. The other color I grow is that yellow. I think I had a picture of it somewhere. And I have like a kind of a peachy color too, but they're expensive to get going with, but they pay for themselves, even in the first year. My butterfly ranunculus that I accidentally perennialized, I don't even know how because we tilled the row, we did all the things. I don't know how they're still alive. They're a lot hardier than a regular ranunculus, but last year they came back up and I just left them, and I cut and I cut and cut on them. I mean, and a butterfly ranunculus, the cheapest you should sell them for is like $2.50 a stem. And that's a good stem that's got, you know, quite a few flowers and branching and stuff. Okay, poppies. I didn't put a picture of poppies on here, but we did talk about those quite a bit. Snapdragons, they're my favorite. And people don't realize snapdragons have a scent. It's wonderful. And you can just grow so many in such a small space. Delphinium is another one. Delphinium, I am trying some of the more spike ones again this year, so we'll see how that goes. But I mostly grow it because it's blue, and they are always looking for a blue flower. But I do like the belladonna, the like really airy looking one that was in that photo before. It's not a big spike. Foxglove, they can't get foxglove from a wholesaler. So if you can grow good foxglove, they will take anything that you have. Last spring, Haley texted me and was like, I will take all the peach foxglove you have. And I was like, it was the end of the season. I said, I probably have like 4 or 5 bunches. And she was like, I'm looking for like 500 stems. And I was like, yeah, get out here. There's no way that's happening. Sweet peas, if you have a tunnel, I wouldn't even try outside. You just can't get the stem length. But sweet peas, they'll buy all that you have. They are, the Japanese sweet peas are, what did they tell me last year? I was looking at them last spring, upwards of $4 or $5 a stem. And I don't sell mine for as much because they don't have quite as many flowers on the stem. But if you've got good tall sweet peas, they get very excited about that. Peonies, unbelievable how much they will pay for. Especially if you've got some of the unique colors and stuff, some of them are like $8, $10, $12 a stem. The only thing about peonies is, you know, a lot of them bloom about the same time. You can spread it out a little bit, but you can store them for quite a while. But yeah, again, if you can find the right florist, but even if you can't, you can often sell them in just straight bunches to the public. A lot of people have a real nostalgic feeling towards peonies, like Grandma's garden always had peonies, things like that. They're fairly easy to sell. But that was another one last spring. Haley texted me and she's like, I'll take every peony you have. Of course, it's kind of the end of the season. I had sold a lot of them, but she took hundreds. So but they take 3-4 years to really get established. I also took a class on growing peonies when I first started, and the guy was like a breeder and stuff, and a lot of them tell you to pinch off the buds, like don't cut the flowers, don't let them flower the first couple years. he was like, if they're not paying for themselves in the first year, then you're wasting your time. He said as long as you leave enough foliage for them to regenerate their roots and stuff. So I cut as soon as they're blooming. I planted like 500 this last fall, and we'll see how they do. But okay, so then at the end I was like, oh, I didn't put any summer stuff. So zinnias is a good summer one. Sunflowers is another one. Cosmos, I have a love-hate relationship with cosmos. Florists love cosmos. White cosmo, you can sell every one you've got, but they're so terrible to cut, and they get tangled, and they'll just randomly wilt. And anyway, but this is the cosmos. They love them because it's got that kind of like airy, floaty element to it. Dahlias is a huge one. Any time of year, they'll buy them, all the stems. They can get them from the wholesaler, but they are just trash compared to what you can get locally. So when I haven't really grown dahlias a whole lot the last few years. Last year I grew a few. I planted them. I was telling them they came in February. I've never had dahlias come that early, and I planted them in the tunnel that eventually blew away. But I thought they were going to be protected from frost. And they went through all the cold and stuff like a champ, and they were blooming May and June, which is really early for dahlias. I know we didn't talk about dahlias, but instead of in the fall, and it was really great because most growers in my area have them in the fall. And so I had spring dahlias, and you kind of have to pick your colors accordingly, but they want the blush and the peach, and you can never have enough white. So, and I've grown, like I said, thousands of sunflowers, especially if you have like a daily florist that does a lot of funerals. And zinnias is kind of the same, but picking the colors. The only way I can sell them is these and they like the open center, which is really interesting. So, I think that's all. Are there any questions? Let me make sure.
You tell us about your cooler and all of that investment and how soon you have to have one and all of that good
Okay.
stuff.
How big it is.
This is a tricky question for me. So, I have water. How big is my cooler and that investment and stuff like that? So I am actually just now building my own cooler. So I'll have to let you know on how much that ends up being for me. I think I mentioned that my family has laying hens. We have a cooler that's the size of this tent, and that's what I've used for my flowers. I set up a shelf in there. My dad and uncle gave me a little corner. They get very annoyed with me in the spring because my corner expands. But they've really grown to love it too. But yeah, so I have not, this last year I bought the smaller cooler to put in my flower room because it's like closer. Because the egg cooler it's about half a mile from where my flowers are, so I have to drive and go get them and stuff. So I have just like a little sliding glass door like you would see at a gas station or just like a small town. And that worked really well for me because especially for tulips, I could just pop them in. And I just got that off Facebook Marketplace. The only thing you have to be careful with stuff like that is flowers like larkspur, even snapdragons, stuff like that. They release like an ethylene, and so if they're in too closed of a space for too long, it can prematurely wilt and kill them. So you have to be a little bit, but I've never had any problems. I think if you put them in your car to deliver in the morning and you close the door and don't run any kind of air or anything, that might be where that's where I've heard stories of people losing buckets of flowers. But I never had any problems with my small cooler this spring with stuff like that. One thing I should mention actually about snapdragons and selling to florists is keeping the stems straight because they are geotropic. Is that right? Yes. I'm glad you're here to confirm my tired brain words. Yes, so if they're like laying on the ground or they fall over, you know, out in the field, they will grow, but just like the tip. And so then your stem is like crooked and you cannot straighten it out. If you straighten it out, then it's just gonna have like an S curve right in the middle of your stem. So it's important, even when you put them in buckets, to keep them upright. So if your bucket's not full, I have like little PVC pipes that I'll shove down in the bucket to give them something to stand straight up with. But yeah, so the cooler, yeah, I'm getting ready to build out my cooler. I'll have to let you know how it goes, but yeah, it is a little bit of an investment, but I think getting one of those smaller ones, even just like a refrigerator to start out with in your garage, is very helpful for spring flowers.
So I bought butterfly ranunculus through Jack Bennett's and through Johnny's. Neither of them have any like source where I can go pay to let them perennialize. I would like to because they are pretty hardy, and so are like the success ranunculus, the phony. I would rather just pay it because you can leave them in the ground. I can plant cosmos, things like that, right over the top of them in the summer, and in the fall they come back after the other crop is done.
Yes. Yeah, it's how mine are too, especially in the tunnel. They like I planted cosmos over them this last year. The year before, I planted coxcomb over the top of them. The main thing with that is like it has to be a crop that you don't have to water excessively so you don't rot your corms. But I don't really know about Johnny's and stuff. This is actually my first year. I emailed my rep at Ball.
It would be Ball Seed, wouldn't it?
At Ball Seed. I honestly haven't heard anything, so I haven't paid anything myself. But I'm leaving them. I mean, that's
They're alive.
yes.
I can't kill 'em.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
I haven't let them.
I
through.
put
I
forth
have-
my effort, and now they need to like let me know if they want me to do something about it. But okay, someone over here have a question?
I got several questions.
Okay.
So how big and how large area are you using for your big tunnel?
My big tunnel is 30 by 96.
Yeah, but I mean, how large a space are you using in the cooler? Sorry.
Oh, in the cooler.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it kind of depends how my tulips hit, because tulips take a lot of space in the cooler. I mentioned earlier that I now grow all my tulips in my heated greenhouse in crates, and I pull them in, try to have them all bloomed out by the time everyone else's field tulips are blooming.
But do you
So-
sell both with the tulip?
Yes, they're treated as an annual. So I try to do that partially for cooler space. But if I'm still storing tulips, I should have put a picture. I almost did, but it's kind of dark in there, so I was like, this is not a clear photo. But a lot of times in the cooler, I'm trying to think, because our cooler, it's maybe 2/3 of it's not quite this big. But I probably use like from the post this whole little section. And I do have one shelf that I can stack
Like the
on.
raccoon space?
Yes, like if you kind of rectangled it out.
Is that with your tulips?
That's with tulips a lot of times. I'll stack crates for tulips. I have a shelf. I should probably like invest in more shelves, but I haven't needed the space really yet. So, but yeah, they take it, especially like right before Mother's Day, we really bleed off into the eggs, so.
So you
It
must
takes
have-
a lot
you
of
must have
space.
Aisles in between.
Yeah,
So you can-
yeah.
Okay, then, I don't wanna monopolize the time,
No, you're fine.
but other people ask questions too. But how long from the time you harvest the foxglove till you put it into the water? You said you put it in
So foxglove is one that I generally will harvest and put it straight into water. I actually don't necessarily process them, but I usually do have a bucket there because they are
okay.
so hard to hydrate.
Okay.
But they're also really hard to process because they have these giant leaves, and if you have really big stems, stripping the leaves off can be a lot of extra. So I'll stick them like down in a bucket to keep them upright. Sometimes I do. I just carry them in a big pile, but I try. And they are one that sometimes I will put a hydrating solution in the water because sometimes I just have the hardest time getting them to hydrate if they're really, really big. And I make sure I strip all of the leaves off.
Then, how tall do your foxglove get, and how long of sticks do you have in your snaps?
So my snaps, it depends. I usually cut them. They're taller than this. Snaps are probably. I sell them. I don't know how tall this is. Like 3 foot, the whole length of the flower. Yes, like the flower is about this big up the top part, and then they're pushing 2.5, 3 foot tall. Did you say snapdragons? Or did you say sweet?
No.
Do you mean sweet peas?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet peas is very
Yeah,
different.
okay.
I was like, snapdragons are easy to get tall.
Yeah.
Sweet peas. I will actually sell them at 8 inches because I know my florists and I know they're okay with that. But most of the time I try to have them about 10 to 12 inch. That's 12 inch is a good sweet pea stem for the South at least. And foxglove, it depends. I sell the big ones to the event florists if I know that's what they want. But I also have smaller ones. So, somebody over have a question? Yes.
I know you said this before, but I was a little distracted sometimes.
That's okay.
Which snapdragon varieties do you use?
Okay, so I mostly grow Chantilly. It is getting cold in here now, huh? They're the ones, we're almost done. Let me see if I can find, okay, so these are the Chantilly. Maybe you can see this picture better now. They're like open-faced. They're not your typical snapdragon that has the little dragon mouth, that you can pinch. So I do grow a few varieties of, it's called Potomac. I finally thought of that word. Because they generally will bloom better for Mother's Day. But the Chantilly is what the florists love because most of them have never seen them before. And they're different. They don't get as giant as like some snapdragons. And then the other one that I've started growing is these are Double Legend. I've grown the Madam Butterfly. They bloom really late for me, and a lot of times it's just not the right timing, and that's when I'm starting to get a lot of aphid pressure. But these Double Legend ones bloom the same time as the Chantilly. So those are but I grew this yellow because I love yellow, and they actually bought quite a bit of it last year. I was surprised. But mostly pink. Huh? So Chantilly and Double Legend are the Potomac.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
How do you spell that?
Potomac, I think. P-O-T-O, is it O? M-A-C. Yeah.
Have you tried Rocket Mix? So 2 questions. Have you tried Rocket Mix? I've got snapdragons in soil blocks right now, and I bought them from Johnny Seeds, but I bought a Chantilly mix. I didn't buy like a particular color, and I bought a Rocket Mix, and I bought a Potomac mix.
Yeah.
So moving forward, what would be the better way to buy them? Pick colors individually, so everything's in specific colors as opposed
If you
to
are
mix.
wanting to sell to florists, getting quantity of straight colors is ideal.
Okay.
For like market bouquets and getting started, learning what does well in your space, I think the mix and trying all the different ones is great. And that's the different varieties like that is gonna spread out your bloom time.
Okay.
So that's, like I said, the Chantilly bloom first out of all of them. That's one of the reasons I grow them, as well as they're just unique. But then I'll grow like 1 or 2 colors of the Potomac just because they bloom a little bit later.
Have you tried the Maryland?
I have tried the Maryland.
It's tall
Yes.
already.
So I actually have some Maryland because I thought maybe I could get some Valentines and
That
they're
was what I
about
was
to
looking for.
They're huge right now. They're an earlier variety.
Can I clarify that? You said that Potomac blooms a little later, so if you plant them at the same time.
If you plant them at the same time, yes. So they're the day length is kind of what triggers them to bloom. There's different groups and there's different varieties. There's the Rocket, Potomac, Maryland. What's the one? Starts with an L. I don't know. There's quite Legend, I think, is another one. But yeah, so that kind of spreads out your bloom time. But I just have a hard time selling the traditional snapdragon unless it's Mother's Day. or I can put it in a market bouquet. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about, I'm between selling florists. My wife took me to a place just outside of Joplin, and this lady had open flower garden.
Mm-hmm. It's like a
And-
U-pick.
You
You
pick,
pick?
and I don't know, $15, you can put it all in this one little vase you had. You know,
Yes.
I mean, you gave the vase back, wrapped it up before you went home, but I know that's different than selling to a florist, but is that just another way?
Yes, so that's just a different way to market your flowers. It's a totally different setup. That's initially how I started. I started with a U-pick because I already had my garden, and since we're right next to our feed store, people would literally knock on my door and ask to pick flowers. So I decided the next year to capitalize on it. And I would charge a little bit, and like a few evenings a week I would let people pick flowers. So it's a different setup. I try to do both, like selling to florists, because I really do love having people out on the farm. It's a whole experience. And I hope to be able to do that again with just some like special specific events, but it's an experience that like a lot of people would never have. So I try to do both, but then like you have all these people on your farm and it's really hard to predict what you're gonna have for your florist. So you either have to have 2 separate growing areas or pick all your flowers for your florist before they come. And right now I'm at a point where I can't grow enough flowers. I sell out pretty much for my florist. So the summer is a lot of time when I do more U-pick type. And it's at this point, it's like my church ladies, or I'll have like a girls' night for my friends, and I'll set up the lights and they can come make a bouquet. I do the women's ministry thing for our church, and then like a neighbor city town. So because I love it. I like having that picture of Jenny at the beginning, actually, she asked me if she could host a event at the farm. So we did, and it was a lot of fun. She charged like $200 for these people to drive 45 minutes to come out and pick flowers and make an arrangement. I mean, she had charcuterie, but I didn't let her have alcohol or anything, so. But people came, and it's one of the reasons that I keep doing it, because it was the stories that just talking to them. One lady she picked a bunch of flowers, and like half of her bucket was dead flowers. And Jenny was like, maybe we should talk again about like how to pick flowers or whatever. So I just went over to her and I said, do you like this? And she's like, yeah, I'm an artist. And then a little bit later, Jenny went over and was talking to her, and she had finished her arrangement, and she'd put like all of the dead stuff on one side and then all these beautiful colorful flowers on the other. And she said, a couple weeks ago, my husband committed suicide. And she was like, and I'm working through that. And she was like, but this just represents to me, like death into life. And she's like, this has been just so healing for me. And so like things like, there's a lot of stories like that of these people that I would never have any connection with, but I do appreciate when it's like a special event. The U-pick is challenging for me because I'm a little bit controlling, I guess, is what Zach tells me. Because it stresses me to have people like, are you picking the flowers right? Like, are your kids running through all of my flowers that I've worked so hard? So I like doing like the special events, or like for our women's ministry at church, or like things like that. So I don't know how I got on that tangent, sorry. But yes, it's hard to grow, it's hard to do both. So I generally I will plant like 4 or 5 beds of just really colorful zinnias, sunflowers, like the branching sunflowers, things like that in the summer, so that I can do those kind of things. Because I have time, because I'm not doing as much florist stuff. Yeah.
Are your florists quite
forgiving if you say, for example, I'm gonna have 2,000 whatever, juniors, whatever, and then something happens?
For the most part, they are very forgiving because
So just,
the events, even though I'm supplying a lot of flowers to them, it's like a drop in a bucket for the amount of flowers that they're processing.
okay.
So most of them, like I said, she'll tell me like, "Hey, you have $1,000 budget. You don't have to. I shouldn't have to spend $1,000 from me, but if I have that many flowers in the right color palette, that's great." Ever Something was another florist. They are ones that they're a bit more like structured. I also love her because she actually sends me orders sometimes. But she'll also say like, if you don't have this, bring me something else, or just let us know. We can, we'll
Okay.
sub something in, or.
So it doesn't keep you up at night if there's something happening in the
It
wedding?
has.
I go out there and actually count the balloons.
I literally do go out there and count. Most of the time in the spring now at this point, I've cut everything and I'm usually okay for spring. It's more like, oh, I want dahlias and I'm like, well, they might be blooming by that point. But I have learned that I try to put boundaries and say like, okay, I'll have flowers April 1st. I'm probably gonna have flowers sooner than that, but not in huge quantities. And so once I start having flowers, they're like, oh, surprised, excited. Then I can. But I kind of know my boundaries now. And last year really threw us all for a loop. Everything's late somehow. But most of them are very, because like I said, the flowers we're bringing them, even though it's a van load, is just, it's unbelievable the amount of flowers they use. So, what's keeping me up at night is growing all the flowers for Madeline, Debbie, and Kenny.
Yeah, I was wondering if that event was on your list.
I'm growing all the flowers for her wedding, and it's the middle of June, and that's a hard time because all the spring perennial stuff has kind of stopped, and you're kind of waiting. So we're gonna put things in a tunnel to try to have early summer stuff and early Lizzies, and those are the kind of things that are a little stressful, but I also know I'll have something, and it'll be fine. I'll have Jenny order me flowers from the wholesaler. But yeah.
I guess that's another question. Do most like wedding venues have like some kind of, I don't know, florist services that you could go to? Are they, like, a
Yes,
good
so
client?
if you are near a venue, and you're not interested in being the florist yourself, they have a list of vendors that they like to work with or whatever, and there's always florists on there. You can go, like, there's a big wedding venue in Tulsa called Ventura House. They just hosted an open house last week, and all the florists were there. They all kind of make a display that shows their style and things like that. You can talk to them. It's more for brides, but it would not be a bad idea to go there and introduce yourself and be like, I have these flowers, this is my plan, can I get your contact, or leave your information with them. I have found that like leaving your information with them is better because most of them are very artsy and not great at communicating. It's very frustrating sometimes, but they're very like last minute, but some of them are really great at planning. So, any other?
How long can you keep your flowers in the bucket? So you're picking all the time, and you put them in buckets and put them in your cooler. How long can you keep them before you deliver them?
That's pretty flower dependent. Like sweet peas, I don't keep them very long in the cooler, maybe a couple days. Snapdragons, I'll keep for like a week at least if I don't sell them. Because snapdragons, they'll keep opening up. Even in the cooler, they'll like keep opening, and you can pop off any that kind of wilted or whatever. And I will say, sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice. I feel good. I will say, since you're selling for events, I'm a little more flexible with that. when I was selling market bouquets, I was super strict about like, I cut it like the day before. I want it to have the max vase life. But as long as I know that they're gonna be a good flower for like the next 4 to 5 days for their event, I don't stress about it too much. So I'll keep them in the cooler longer that way. So like for Madeline's wedding, I'm growing snapdragons. If they bloom ahead of time, I will stick them in the cooler and they'll be fine for a few weeks even. Yeah. And it's gotta stay dark. Dark and cool is key. I would not sell them as to put on your table. Honestly, I put them on my table and they last just fine, but that's just a quality thing that I'm not gonna try. I don't want my name to be tagged to that. So yeah, I'll keep them in the cooler.
I have a question. Your cooler, does it matter the humidity for the flowers? It doesn't have to be dry cooler, or you prefer like moist?
Kind of will be moist because you
Yeah,
have
it
buckets
is.
of water.
I was trying to think, like, I don't really think about it too. I guess it is kind of humid in there, and I think maybe if you were trying to store them for longer, you might want it to be a little drier because they start getting, like, if they're bunched together, they'll get mushy and stuff. But for the most part, it's kind of humid.
Yeah, it's gonna be because
Yeah, you've
they're
got
transpiring all
water
the
in
time.
there. Yeah.